All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right, what is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast, and this is going to be a very special episode. Real quick, I'm going to introduce my daughter before I introduce any of you guys. Apologies. Hey, say hi.
Oh, she's adorable.
Say hi. Oh my goodness. Her hair's a little bit messed up. I apologize. My name is Steady, and this is going to be a very special episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast. You heard our review just a few days ago for the Snyder Cut, but now I've brought together a roundtable of Justice Leaguers in the podcast world. Joining me, of course, is the man behind the magic, the one and only Joe Garcia.
Hey, what's up? Hey, I got my friend. If we have room for one more, I think Rudy wants to join us.
Oh my goodness, is that right? Is that right?
Rudy's a big geek, so at heart.
Throw him in, man. The more the merrier. The more the merrier.
Let me ask him.
There you go. Oh, you said he was ready. All right, let me get on with the introductions. Friend of the show, you heard him during our Wonder Woman 1984 discussion, and he's also been with us during our WandaVision spoilery talk. It's the one and only Nick Kramer.
Hello, guys. Let's tear this thing apart and build it back better.
Oh man, a guy who's been on the show many moons ago. He's the host and the originator of the Con Culture podcast. It is Juan Gonzalez. What's going on, Juan?
Hey everybody, how's it going? Let's talk some movies and stuff, or one movie, or yeah.
There you go. Been a long time, man. It's been a long time since we had you on the show.
It has. It's been a while. Many moons ago, before the vid happened, and we were all forced inside into our basements.
Exactly.
Where we were all comfortable. Let's be honest. Nobody on this panel had a problem staying inside with their toys.
No, we've been training for this for years. And last but definitely not least, someone who I've been waiting to have on the show for a very long time. He is the host of the Real to Real podcast, and I'm going to have him talk about some other projects he has going on later on. But it's Sergio Beretta. What's going on, Serge?
Hey, everybody. Guys, thank you for having me. I'm excited to finally do something else in my basement besides the stuff I've been working on. So.
Oh, pleasure having you and pleasure having everybody here. It was just something that we wanted to do. We had our own review about Justice League, the Snyder Cut, and it was very, I'm not going to say one-sided, but we all sort of had a very similar viewpoint on how we reacted and how it made us feel, how we responded to the film. So wanted to kind of reach out and get some other opinions, some other viewpoints from guys I know very, very well, who I respect and I listen to, and you guys have a lot of great valid points. So wanted to make sure, and I had the full spectrum of everybody who witnessed the Snyder Cut. So nothing's going to be off the table. If you're watching this show right now, spoiler alert for the Snyder Cut, for Zack Snyder's Justice League. If you haven't seen it, pause this video right now, because these guys are going to be spoiling the hell out of it and telling you what they loved, what they didn't love, what worked, what didn't work, and everything in between. So I think we'll kind of go around real quick, just give your kind of summary overview of the movie as a whole. Did it kind of meet your expectations? Did it not meet your expectations? Maybe what your mindset was going into it, and then just probably your overall feelings. Any one of those, if you would like to. Nick, I'm going to start with you, man. Go ahead and let us know what you thought.
It was better than I thought it would be, and I dislike. Oh yeah, I disliked Batman v Superman to no end because of a lot of things. Even though I thought that Ben Affleck was probably one of the best probably the best Batman on screen, period, in a really, really long time. He might as well have been Arkham Asylum Batman, brought to life.
There you
go. But there were Lex Luthor's motivations in that story just didn't do it for me. But then of course Justice League. I hated it beyond all measure. It was just so bad. The effects were bad. The villain was bad. Characters were barely in it that mattered. Just a ton of stuff. It was trash to me. It was just garbage. But then this came out, and I was like, okay, well, it's gonna be either very, very bad or it's gonna be very, very good. And it was very, very good. It was, I dare say, it was an excellent movie. I could give a darn that it was 4 hours long. To me, it needed the 4 hours, and it made it that much better to me. Sure, 10% of it was slow-mo, but hey, man, that's his vibe, man. That's his shtick, you know? But I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I thought that everything in it needed to be in there to make it as good as it surprisingly turned out to be. And I wish we were going to get a continuation of this because of how good it is. And that's saying something for me, because I detest DC stuff for the side kind of part. But yeah.
I will testify. I've told Nick how much I've loved other DC projects just for Nick to like bring my whole world crashing down. But it's all good.
Aquaman was good, right? Man. It did have that that octopus that was jamming on the drums. That did it.
It's all good, man.
Aquaman was playing a Nintendo 64 game. It was great, except for the blurry graphics.
Facts. All right, up next, Juan, give it to us, man. What you got?
All right, very similar actually. I detested Batman v Superman just because of how they did Superman and a useless third act. Like you ruined a villain, you ruined an amazing arc, the death of Superman. You established nothing. We care about none of the characters, and you already robbed us of one before we even cared about it. But moving on to the Snyder Cut, Justice League was even worse than Batman v Superman. Like it was Frankenstein's monster, and it was ugly. It was tacky. The Flash was neurotic and just bad all around. He was horrible. I hated him as a character.
Didn't you think the Flash was acting like he should have been in a Woody Allen movie in the theatrical cut?
In the theatrical cut, 100%. But now getting to the Snyder Cut, some characters had a complete 180. The Flash and Cyborg being them. Complete 180. I think everyone should watch this film just to see what Zack Snyder was trying to do. I do think everybody should watch this film if you are a comic book fan. Now, if you are a fan of good movies and high quality production, stay as far away from this movie as you can.
There it is. There it is.
This Frankenstein's monster of a movie that will... You could watch an episode of WandaVision, and that's the amount of slow-mo you get in this movie. It's literally an episode of WandaVision's worth of just slow-mo. Shit that doesn't need to be slow-mo. You have superheroes maxing out their powers on like humans. There's just so much bad in here, and I'm sure I'll get a chance to unpack it. But overall, great if you like superheroes, because you do have some amazing stuff. That the Flash gets a redemption. Ray Fisher finally got some justice to his character.
Oh,
it was so good. But I'll explain why even that was a shit show when you get down to the details. And there's almost no redeeming quality for this movie. And I don't think if you like high quality production, you should watch it. It's bad. So that's just my review of it. It was I'll tell you this. My son and I took bathroom breaks and nobody asked to pause the movie. We did not. We were like, please, for the love of God, do not prolong this any longer than it's already been. And this was just 2 hours into the movie, guys.
Oh my God. And that's our show, folks. Thanks for watching. Oh man.
Oh, geez.
We'll get into the details. I actually feel like we're gonna agree on a lot of things, but perspective wise, we're kind of leaning one way or the other. But I think there's gonna be a lot that we agree on. So last again, but not least, Sergio, give us your overall thoughts of the film, man.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be Switzerland, but there's a part of me that I kind of land in the middle on some things.
Okay.
Definitely an improvement from the original cut. I'm a little more. I love the panel for a lot of reasons because, as you guys said, we know each other, and Nick and I, we have some very, very different opinions about movies and such. And so what I'm hearing and I'm liking is the fact that I feel comfortable with what I'm about to say, given everything that's been said. And that is that for some things, this movie did a lot to improve upon what we first got. The storytelling was a lot better. There was more depth. I mean, gosh, did this come out at a different point? I think we see Ray Fisher get at least a Golden Globe nomination.
Ooh,
maybe
nice.
nothing more so than that. But he was a complete. This is what happens when you let Cyborg be in a movie, and that was one of the biggest shiny points. So a better story, a much more fun experience. Some of the downside you guys have mentioned, the slow-mo that, I literally posted on Facebook in our whatever. This movie just doesn't end, but you guys mentioned production. It's like Zack Snyder found the slow-mo effect on his panel. I was like, I wonder what happens if I do this. And then he's like, oh, I like that. I think I'll keep doing that. And then he figured out all the other shiny buttons that did cool things. And before you know it, Steppenwolf looked like a glam dancer. And so it was just, it was a little overdone, in terms of the production. But I hated the Joss Whedon version so much that this really did it for me. I enjoyed this movie. Pacing was an issue. And at one point in the first hour and a half, it was Justice League the musical, and because of the use of the soundtrack.
Oh my gosh!
So I'm landing square in the middle. I enjoyed it. I'll revisit it at some point. But probably wear a bag to pee in. So, yeah.
I appreciate that, sir. Yeah, no, this is gonna be a very interesting episode for us. Trust me. Joe, I've already had a full 2.5-hour show discussing this movie with you, but for the guys who might not have heard your perspective on it, go ahead and drop it for us, man.
Well, some of the things that plagued the first film was just pacing, and then the dialogue just didn't seem to flow correctly. It just seemed forced.
Right.
The characters, you didn't really seem to care about them whatsoever. It was like they were just thrust together and they were just slapped on screen. All right, wow me. We're going to go ahead and put a film out there that we spend millions of dollars on, and we know it's shit, but we're still going to put it out there because we need to recoup our cash. This was a cash grab. We know that. Even the jokes felt forced. I know Joss Whedon directed the Avengers, and I know, comedy is a big part of the MCU films. They try to bring that into the DCEU, and it did not flow well. It just seemed that those jokes fell flat. They were horrible, man. Even the Flash, for example, he just seemed creepy, dude. Like the creepy superhuman Woody Allen,
Oh yeah.
Cyborg, what did they do to him? They reduced him to early 2000s
Nothing.
emo kid, man. I'm like, no, this isn't what we want to watch. So if you were a diehard fan and you're comparing the 2017 version to the Justice League Snyder Cut, it's like night and day. There was a lot more character development. The fluidity seemed a lot better. We got to see a lot. And by that, I mean, I think at times it was way too much that they put in here. But it was great, because me as a fan, I like to see all the little tidbits and seeing these little backstories and watching the characters develop, and I thought it was great. I enjoyed the film for what it was. I went in there with an open mind because I didn't want to go and feed into the overhype that we always get accustomed to. Films get overhyped. You go in there and you're like, wow, none of that stuff was in the movie that was in the trailer. For example, we saw the Joker. We saw a scene with the Joker in the trailer, and he put, "We live in a society." That wasn't in the movie whatsoever. Thrown out the door. So I'm like, oh, it was just a small little thing. No big deal. It didn't change the complexion of the movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought the cinematography was spot on. I really enjoyed it. It gave you a really great epic scope of what this director's vision, Zack Snyder, really wanted to accomplish, from start to finish. And it felt like a more complete film, and I enjoyed it. I thought I'd give it a 5 out of 5 based on DCEU movies. I thought it has to rank up there as one of the best, if not the best, so I thought it was great. I mean, I have to put it up there with some of the better DCEU movies out there. We can't compare it to the animation because the animation's on a whole other level, level. Yeah, and the thing is, the Joss Whedon's direction of the 2017 film, it doesn't even deserve to smell Zack Snyder's fart, dude. It was that bad. It was that bad. So, one of the things that I got to say in closing here, did anybody else feel like that banter between the Joker and Batman was some of the best dialogue that we've seen on the big screen ever?
Oh yeah,
dude, put that on a film.
100%.
Give me more of that.
And apparently that was like the only supposedly the only new scene that Zack's filmed for this. Yeah. But because he just wanted to get his version of Batman and his version of this universe's version of the Joker together at least once, and damn, was it good.
I want to see a movie based on that. I'm like, hey, I can get behind this. I liked it. The one creepy part, though, that the Flash did creep me out on, a little bit of Woody Allen vibe when he was brushing Irish's hair.
Thank you.
I'm like, bro, unwanted affection there.
They had a moment.
She was frozen, bro.
No.
She was frozen.
You can't have a moment with somebody who can't perceive you're even there.
He had time.
Before the accident, two moments they shared.
It wasn't feel my hair good.
It was not.
It wasn't like touch my bubble. No. Consent, my dude.
He was very gentle and cordial when he folded her arms to put her on the ground. So
he didn't arrest her.
Yeah, and then there was moment number 3 whenever he came back out of the Speed Force, and they're just like, yeah, the car just exploded, but man, your eyes though. And they were there for a third time. She would have been okay with him moving her hair out of the way.
There you go. That seemed like slow motion between them after the car accident, but that was a slow motion. So take that off the list, Juan. That wasn't one of them.
We got a viewer here that's asking a question.
That wasn't in slow motion. I'm fine with Superman being in slow motion. It fits. They move so fast. If we were to show them in real speed, we couldn't perceive the movement.
It'd be some DBZ stuff. Dragon Ball Z.
It wasn't slow motion. It was love motion. They
were
just
it was creep motion, and that is a charge in any city. 100%.
Wow, that was creepy.
He's catching a case for that.
I feel dirty.
Right?
I felt awkward watching that scene, dude. I was like, bro.
Trust me. Try it. 10 people. Walk up to 10 people and caress their hair.
The only thing missing is I thought he was gonna sniff her hair. I was like, dude, no.
100%.
I mean, all right,
that's the vibe I got.
Yeah, Helga or whatever her name was when she's sniffing Aquaman's sweater vest or whatever. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. Smelling the musk of that.
Wow.
Talk about a useless scene. Talk about a useless scene. And you had to make it 2 minutes of song. It's useless.
We'll talk about that.
It's like our friend just said. It was the musical. That was the Justice League musical. Yeah, that was the choir part.
That was HBO Max. They didn't want to pay for any rights to any music, so you got whatever was on YouTube's non-proprietary list.
Royalty free. Hey, let's put on one of the comments that we got here from Roms. He's watching on YouTube, so thank you for watching. He put, I'm going to put it on screen. He puts, remember Superman asking Batman, and he's referring to Batman versus Superman. Do you bleed? I was like, oh, God.
Thank goodness that's gone.
Yes, please.
Along with that bad upper lip of Henry Cavill's. Thank goodness that's gone.
Thank you. Thank you. Also on Facebook, some friends of y'all, Sergio and Nick, Melissa Colunga, we haven't heard that name before. She actually says the car accident scene and the love at first sight moment between Barry and Iris, that was one of her favorite parts.
Oh,
Look at
boom!
that. Look at
Of
that.
course.
Boom!
Coming from the
lady of
female
the house
opinion.
approves.
It was a good scene. I'm not gonna lie, but it got a little creepy, man.
That's
Melissa, I'll text you later, Melissa.
Wow.
she's saying that because it's actually very similar to how we first met. So it different time of day and all that. But
You know what
very
really made
similar.
that scene creepy was the wieners, man. The flying wieners,
Yeah.
and you're like, bro.
They hit a hot dog stand.
They hit a hot
Yes.
they hit a hot dog stand, and it paid off 30 seconds later when he's like, hey, that's weird. Hey, but I keep a meat snack for nervous dogs. I start on Monday.
But honestly,
Come
he
on.
could have picked up the wiener from the ground because he was already on his way back.
I didn't need to see the in slow-mo sesame seed.
True
Okay, yeah, that was
That was, you know.
how much did that CG zoomed in Sesame Seed cost?
Not
How
much.
many polygons were in that thing?
Exactly.
Not much, because a lot of these visual effects in the first 2 hours look unfinished as shit.
Oh, come on.
They would have looked worse.
Not as
I saw
unfinished as
Wonder
the
Woman
theatrical cut.
84. I saw Wonder
Oh
Woman 84
man!
graphics of this shit. It was
Wow.
bad.
But I don't know about that. I didn't see any obviously wooden dummies in Diana's hands like there were in 84.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
You were gonna use the
No.
magic rock to rescind your wish to not see those scenes anymore. That stupid rock, bro, man.
Oh man.
I thought I asked for the brioche bun, not the sesame seed.
What we did see though, that was stupid of Wonder Woman, was her murdering a guy in front of school-age children, like straight up obliterating half a building, almost killing the officers down below, and then just turning to a little girl and like, you could be anything you want to be, including a murderer.
She just vaporized that dude, man.
It's not like
Turned him to dust.
it's not out of character for her to do that though.
It is when you've established her as like a beacon of kindness in your past films. Like she's going to be the beacon of kindness. But then one dude,
but
unarmed out of bullets, is like
that was the
Boom.
50s, or rather that was the 30s, and then that was the 80s. And then he did just try to machine gun 30 kids.
All right, she off the dude.
he's out of bullets.
She was done with his shit.
She off this dude.
Off in front of children?
If
his hat made it.
But she off
I'll
the
in-
dude in front of the kids, right? She offs this dude in front of the kids, and then she goes up to him. You think these damn kids are gonna want anything to do with her when she just blew up this guy? It's like, what are you gonna do to us?
Off a human.
Yes.
I will interject by saying that these guys are clearly terrorists of the worst kind, right?
Yeah.
And they were offing people in front of these kids early on. So I'm not defending Wonder Woman's actions, but I'm also not criticizing. I'm not criticizing her for it. I think
she took out everybody else and let everybody else live.
The thing,
with this one guy.
The thing that I would say is that we are meant to understand this is like a very short amount of time that she has to take down, let's say 10 or 12 guys surrounding this bomb. And so for her to kind of move at the speed required to take out these thugs, you couldn't do so and still be able to kind of drop them softly on the ground or hit them and knock them out, but not completely damage them in a way. It's
the last one.
But it's a very short amount of time, is what I'm saying. Like, you have to move at the certain speed, and just physics, you're not able to hold
when she
or
kills the one guy.
or pull your punches. That guy had it coming. He just tried to shoot at like 30 people. He had it coming.
No,
I
that's not
think
what she's about.
one of the things that scene really kind of brought home for me, because one of the things I did, which I found out in hindsight was a mistake, was I rewatched both the Man of Steel and then Batman vs Superman ahead of watching the Snyder Cut, because I wanted to make sure I had everything. Knowing I was going to talk about it on my show as well, it was like I need to have it real fresh. And the thing that scene really got me to, that whole explosion of the building versus just taking out the guy, is again, these movies continue to suffer from this notion of why do superheroes have to destroy everything in order to take out, a villain, and I get it. It's in large part for effect, but again, it takes me out of the story when you're trying to, she's trying to show this group of people that she's there to save them. but then she wrecks half the building. It's with no repercussion. So it's little things like that where sometimes I describe it as Zack Snyder went into his Michael Bay on several moments in this movie, and it really became overdone in certain regards. But I don't know that I even thought about that much as you guys have about that one scene. But now I'm like, well, actually,
oh no,
all the danger's gone. She threatens the lives of police officers below. Not to mention the kids could have been blasted with debris when she took out an entire section of a wall.
Like Ted said, physics. It was going the other way to keep you safe.
You never see
the place already had a moonroof anyway. So.
But check it out. She blew out that whole floor, right, of that building.
Right.
What's holding it up, dude? What's holding it up?
See the whole thing go out. It could be just the windows for all we know.
But what's holding the building up?
Clear exactly what happens.
Nobody watch it. You see the whole building open. Yeah. Like she blows the wall off and it lands on the cop cars and the cops have to get out of the way or die. We don't know that some didn't.
Yeah,
I want to see that panning shot where they walk past the building they were just in, and you can see people like picking out concrete,
glass.
That's the cut I want to see.
Yeah. There you go.
Property damage galore.
That's a good one to pull out and to talk about, because I think there were a lot of like, is it excessive? Is it out of her character? But Zach has such a very kind of similar point of view characterization of Wonder Woman, and we know from interviews, storyboards that have leaked regarding other plots or other origins for Diana. She was actually going to be a lot more badass, a lot more cutthroat, a lot more warrior-esque than she's ever been portrayed in the movies. Zach was told to kind of dumb it down and bring her back to earth a little bit. So this is where we're at. But yeah, before Zach's first thoughts about Diana was her origins would be, I think, battling Genghis Khan or something like of that nature, and she was going to walk around with the heads of some of her enemies on her belt, and she was just going to be like that tough and that gritty. And
so not Wonder Woman at all. Not Wonder Woman at all. Then.
Well, I mean, come on, guys. You got to think about who we're talking to. I know this is me preaching to the choir. This is Zack Snyder. You look at his filmography, 300. You look at The Watchmen. This would not have been, or it shouldn't have been, if you know his work. If he'd got, because let's face it, he got dark with all of our DC characters across the board on this movie. A lot of it was based on the work that he, what was it, Frank
Miller.
Thank you. Frank Miller's version of Batman. So we knew that going in. I wasn't so much bothered by the darkness and of some of these characters, like the black Superman suit. I dug that stuff because if you know Zack Snyder, then you go in coming to expect that that's going to be an element of the overall film. Right. So that didn't bother me as much as some of the, just the excessive. I keep bringing up the slow-mo, but just it was such an overproduced thing that by the time it was over, you were like, all right, Zach, I hope you got it out of your system, buddy, because like,
nope.
And here's my other thing. I'll finish at least this part with this. The lens I watched this movie through was knowing in hindsight, or before I got started, what he was doing. He was putting his vision out for what he would have done had he stayed with the project. The way he had intended. He was going to set up several more films, right? And, because of the tragedy of his daughter, and just a quick, PSA, if you need help, there's help out there. We want you here with us. If you watch the movie through that lens of knowing what he was planning, things that bothered folks, like the dream sequences and stuff, really made sense. Could they have been left out if he knew he wasn't going to continue the series? Sure. But that's the only thing that really helped me in some regard with some of this stuff, because he had this, vision he wanted to put out there of what could have been, right?
Yeah.
And that's both a plus and a minus in my regard, because when it was over, I messaged Nick and I was like, that last part, I better get that movie. And then, of course, like he always does, he burst my bubble. So,
but Serge, the writing was on the wall before that tragedy with his daughter.
Yeah, you're right.
The Snyder's universe wasn't going to go forward. We knew that before the Justice League was released.
I was still hopeful.
There was going to be a massive overhaul. So putting those seeds for other films was useless.
Yeah.
It was useless and didn't need to be in the movie. As much as I love the epilogue and the dialogue between Joker and Batman, you didn't fucking need it in the movie.
In Spanish, we say "ya pa qué."
Yeah, ya pa qué.
No, hombre. In Spanish, you say "no mames, Zack Snyder." No mames.
No mames, Zack Snyder. We're not gonna get a Manhunter.
No, pues wow.
As much as I loved it, we're not gonna get a Martian Manhunter. We're not gonna get that Nightmare universe. We're not gonna get everything else you try to set up. So why put it in this movie?
Yeah.
You could have shaved an hour if you cut out the slow-mo and movies we're never gonna see.
You know,
and
that
still told the same story. They don't even affect the current story he's trying to tell.
But the thing is that the story. The thing is that was the whole point of the Snyder Cut was that people wanted to see what his original vision was.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not shit was going to be followed up with at all, which we know it's not. We knew before the Snyder Cut ever came out. WB had said deuces to anything having to do with anything that he had laid the seeds for, but people wanted to see what the path was that he was going, and with that epilogue, there's a bunch of other stuff, Martian Manhunter, but that scene in the nightmare future, which was going to be the second Justice League movie with Batman and Joker talking about what they were going to do, changing time to fix everything, blah, blah, blah. That's what he was originally going to do. And if he didn't include it, then it wouldn't have been the Snyder Cut. It would have been, again, the suits having more of a say like they did before his daughter passed away. And then the movie got fucked up,
Can I just say real quick?
Of course.
Martian Manhunter, man, poor Harry Lennox. I mean, he's been this character throughout the series where you're like, God, he's kind of a dick, and then he gets this cool role and like,
never seen that.
Poor guy.
He had an interesting part to play in this whole in the whole film was when Martian Manhunter assumed the role of Martha and was talking with Lois. That actually was really surprising to me. It was like that was a pivotal point in the film with the character development of one Lois Lane, and it's showing that relationship that she has with Martha. And they understand each other because they're both going through the same heartache. They're going through the same pain, so they have that unspoken bond between them. And he just went in there as the Martian Manhunter, changed his form into Martha. Told Lois kind of what she needed to hear, and then just bounced. Like, in other words, just don't stay there in your deep-rooted depression. Get out and do what you were meant to do, which is a powerful meaning to it, an undertone, which I thought was very impactful.
But what happens later when Lois goes and thanks Martha, and Martha's like, "I didn't say anything."
I know that's
like, that was my own.
That wasn't me.
I was waiting for that to happen. Just like, thanks for the talk the other day. It was great.
Sure.
It doesn't matter anymore because they're so distracted by that baby basket, though.
No.
Yeah.
Who caught the pregnancy test?
The pregnancy test.
Yeah.
The pregnancy test in the drawer.
Yep.
Because a woman could be nothing in a movie if not the pregnancy role, the girlfriend, or the hostage.
But she's the key. Lois is the key.
Not in this movie.
I get that.
She actually helps a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
A criticism that one of our podcast mates had, it never entered my mind. Me being a male, this never entered my mind. Snyder, in his movies and in his story of the Justice League, the woman was never in a story that didn't involve a love story. Not only that, not exactly. It's a trend.
I forget what that thing is called.
But in Marvel films, in Marvel, you have the stories now where there is no love interest. Regardless of the quality, they're trying to change how they portray female
stereotype.
Characters.
Yeah.
And the Armor and Patty Jenkins version was badass. You still had the short skirts because they got mobility, but they had full armor that covered their torsos. Go rewatch it. Snyder's version, for some reason, all the Amazon have bikinis. There's literally this armor.
It was just the ones inside the temple, wasn't it? And the ones with the doors, but all the ones that came were all wearing the full armor.
It was more toned down than before. I will
They
say.
had,
Yeah.
they had low cut armor. It was covering a lot less, and so just the costume design was what she said was it's sending all kinds of visual messages that you have to expose. You have to be exposed to be a woman in film, and you have to be a love interest or have a love story attached. Otherwise, you have no interesting story to tell.
The plus,
Which were both Wonder Woman movies. Were literally love stories.
Love stories.
They were super
difference-
rom-coms.
the difference between this one and the Justice Cut is no gratuitous butt shots. Those are all gone. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And I would actually push back a little bit on maybe characterizing women in or putting them in a box, because I've said this on our show. I've said this to people that I've recommended this movie to. I don't think I've ever seen women, a group of women, like hundreds of women, like more fierce, more powerful, more brave. The first moment in this movie that had an emotional response for me is, I'm going to always get this wrong, Hippolyta saying to the Amazons, show Steppenwolf, show him
them
your
your
fear.
Mhm.
And they all scream in unison, we have no fear. And to me, that is always going to resonate with me every single time I watch it. It's always going to strike a chord in my soul, because I've never seen women that brave, that powerful, that fearsome ever on screen, that I can remember, at least. So if Zach can pull that off, showing them, because there's a lot, I've talked about this in length, there's a lot going on in that mindset. None of them think they're coming out of that battle alive. They all know beforehand that the structure that they're all standing in is set to be cast into the sea at any point in time if Hippolyta decides to pull the trigger. So seeing those women with that mindset going into that battle with 0 ounce of fear, which I wouldn't be able to do at all, is powerful. It is so powerful, and I loved it.
Yes, but there's what you say and what you show.
They showed that.
They said that the lines were there, but the costumes tell a different story.
I can't focus on
battle outfits. They're not practical.
You know what? You brought up a good
As a
point, though,
warrior.
Ted. You brought up a good point in that temple scene when
what's that?
the queen is leaving, right? She's exiting the temple with the mother box. What do we see? We see those women striking those wooden posts, and you were like, oh, she's a CrossFit trainer. But why would you say that? Because you got to see the gratuitous shot of the abs, because they were wearing a costume that really was just too revealing. It wasn't like a battle costume with full armor. It was more like you said, a bikini, you know?
It was a metal bikini.
Yeah, basically.
It was a metal bikini.
I think there's a sort of a balance between it, because again, they're not, it's weird. It's not cleavage they're showing. They're showing their muscles, they're showing their arms, they're showing their powerful thighs and their legs. I'm not going to say it's absolutely they need to be covered from head to toe and that it's wrong. I think there's a balance.
In battle, you would at least have your torso covered for sure.
Your vitals
can be exposed.
Yeah.
Like Spartans. They have the skirts for mobility.
Right, I think and Ted, give me some rope on this. I think I know where you're coming from. The idea is there's a difference between it being gratuitous and for the male gaze, which is, again, this is, forgetting about the audience or whatever it is, right? But in the context of the story, it's less about it being for the male gaze and more about it being they own their shit. They take ownership of their look, of their ability, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, what point would they have to? That's like saying, what point would a girl have to wear anything that was revealing at all if there weren't guys around her, if it wasn't involving sex? There are plenty of women out there that would turn around and be like, why can't I wear that for something that has nothing to do with attracting whoever might be attracted to me, right?
Yeah, but we're just saying in this context, they're in battle
because of the fact that it is utility for the thing that I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, all of those women, all of the Amazonians, they're all like Diana. Yeah, Diana might be like an actual like descendant of Zeus or what have you, but they're all like her, meaning they all have the same no fear. They all have the same strength, speed, blah, blah, blah. They don't give a damn about armor covering, really. You know what I mean?
So why does a horse crush her? So you're unable to lift a horse now? You're telling me you can fight this super strong alien and hold him at bay?
That's a big horse.
But a horse falls on you, and it's like, oh, this is it.
But the horse was wearing armor.
Nobody around her can pick this up.
The horse was wearing armor.
You have all these troops around you. They could easily lift this horse, and it's like, nah, fam. This is how it goes. It's a useless death, and it feels useless.
No, she was
so many useless deaths in this.
But now we're talking about that as
that kind of humanized her, though.
So.
That kind of humanized her, though, because the compassion that she showed. She stayed there until the end. You know,
it was a useless death.
But I get what you're saying because
she didn't need to die. That's what I'm saying. These things don't make sense. Like I get what they're trying to do, but the parts are off. There's, you know, how your eyes can tell something's not right about a thing subconsciously. If anything's misaligned, you just see it. That's kind of what this is. I get what he was trying to say.
It would be kind of like a bus falling on Superman, and he couldn't push the bus off of him for whatever reason. You know.
The counterpoint I would make to your point, Juan, is again, we're looking at two very different versions. The Whedon, I can't recall, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, that death didn't happen in the original version.
No.
Snyder, I believe, I get what you're saying about useless deaths, but I didn't see them as useless because of the tone that Snyder was trying to strike. That this is a dark time. And in situations where we've seen the Amazons before, where there hasn't been like recognizable death, even in the battle against Steppenwolf in the first film, now you have that, and it continues to be a theme kind of throughout the film, where it sets that tone for this is a much darker version. It's a much darker vision that Snyder had. So I don't know about useless, but I will agree with you on the whole notion of like that's what kills you. Like it did feel like it took less after I just watched you guys do amazing things in that temple. So that's where the pacing for me was really affected in little moments like that.
Yeah, I feel that I know Nick says they're similar to Diana. I think Diana does have that super speed, that super strength. I think all the other Amazons are probably superior to just normal average day humans.
They have enhanced strength.
Or normal
strength because they can fight
CrossFitters. Yeah, exactly, right? And they'll go and do that. I didn't hate it. I think it was like, you know, help her pick her up. The cavalry does arrive some short time after. It feels like she dies.
That was a badass scene.
And I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Akin to the Lord of the Rings, like when Gandalf comes over.
That was exactly my thought.
Gandalf the White.
And then with all the arrows, it was like that scene in 300. It's like, well, then we'll fight in the rain or whatever it is, or fight in the shade rather. All the arrows coming.
So was all of Zach's leftover tropes put into this film. It's what he tried to do. He tried to make them Spartans, and it didn't fit. It didn't convey it to me. And the deaths, we barely knew this character, so we didn't feel the death. And that happens sadly a lot in the movie, where you're like, yeah, he died. I guess that's sad. The only death that I really felt was Ray Fisher's dad, and that's only because Ray's emotion.
Yeah.
Ray was a bright light in the Whedon cut. Even though all his story was cut out, his acting shines through even in that version because he's that damn good. And on this one, it was on full display. So when his father dies, the emotion and the pain and the realization that he's losing him before he could make amends, you see all of that on Ray's face, and that's the only reason that
I think it was a good acting, not only from Ray Fisher, but also from the character who's playing his father, the actor who played his father. I was telling that to Ted in our previous discussion, is that there was a lot of contact. You could feel the emotion by just the look, you know, and that's hard to pull off, you know, that there's this 100%. Unspoken thing that going on, this bond. They're like, they can feel each other's pain, like this is it, you know. So I liked that scene. I thought it was really, really well done. And you cared a little bit more about his father's relationship with Cyborg, because you could see right from the get-go, there was some turmoil. There was a little bit of a backstory there, and you understood why he felt that certain way about his dad, and his dad trying to look for a way to redeem himself in his son's eyes. So that was powerful right there to set the tone, you know?
And to your point, like the Cyborg arc was so good, and that's why it pisses me off so much, because all it shows and represents to me is what we missed out on. We should have had solo films to set up these characters, because I feel like I got a watered down version of what would have been a masterful arc. It's still way better than what we got in Whedon's, but it's a lot less than what we should have got out of an actor the caliber of Ray Fisher.
It was kind of a
Yeah.
Cliff Notes version of Cyborg's story.
100%. And it felt
yeah.
like the Cliff Notes version. And it was out of place. And we kept going back and forth from Wonder Woman to Aquaman to Cyborg.
Yeah.
You could rearrange the first 2 hours of this movie and it wouldn't make a fucking difference to anything. There's no linear pace there.
Interesting.
If you move clips around, try it. Fuck it. Play with some editing software. Move clips around, the story changes not at all in the first 2 hours. Not even a little bit.
Well, a lot of it is as exposition. We get a much better explanation for the mother boxes. We're being told from Diana and Bruce's point of view, what these things mean and who's behind all of it. The anti-life equation, I feel like, wasn't ever mentioned in Justice League.
Oh no,
So,
it was not a thing.
No.
there you go.
No,
So
not
Do you think
exciting.
Josh Whedon would be that
Darkseid
high
wasn't
to bring
even there.
that in there?
I agree. So it's exciting. It's exciting for the DC fan to just hear that, for the first time and to see all of that. I'm glad you brought up Ray Fisher because I wanted to throw something out to you guys. Because with all of the criticisms, with all of the hype, I think there were some ideas in this movie that have never been explored in any other sort of fashion before, not just comic book movies, but just movies in general. And it one of them revolves around Ray Fisher's character. Cyborg is such a powerful character, and he has the ability to hack systems of all kinds around the world in nanoseconds, right? And they could have just shown us Ray Fisher's character, Victor Stone, just hacking like security systems as he was trying to get Barry Allen into Star Labs. That could have been the extent of it, and that would have been fine. But they did something great where they visually represented hacking and the research and exploration of the digital world visually for the fans, for the audience. And I was
Cyborg's
like,
version of the Matrix.
exactly. And I'm like, this is brilliant. This is new. This is inventive. I applaud Zach and Chris Terrio, who's a great writer, on that alone. So I kind of gave this movie props for just seeing that bold of an idea and executed that well. I don't know if that kind of felt the same for everybody. Sergio,
It was Ray
did you kinda
Fisher in
feel
the
that way?
Matrix. It was in the Matrix. That's what the vibe that was given.
Yeah. The thing I loved about the fuller exposition we got on Victor Stone and Cyborg was the simple fact of knowing that we're probably not going to get a Cyborg standalone movie, which, let's face it, now I'm interested. Now I'm intrigued by what that could have been, because I said it earlier in a previous conversation. The thing about Cyborg in the first film isn't just lack of screen time. It's that the way it was edited, it was like he was this morose, regretful, like, why am I here? What am I doing? Whereas in this version, the fact that we see the accident, the fact that we now understand the desperation of a father, right? Because Joe Morton, listen, Cyborg, Ray Fisher, great actor and all, but that role and that piece of the movie doesn't work unless you got an actor like Joe Morton, who, like you guys said earlier, can do it with a facial expression. He's been doing it since Terminator 2.
When he was trying to bring another mechanical thing to life.
Exactly. It's like then he doesn't learn. No, but my bigger point being that the layers of stuff that we got to learn about Cyborg is what made it. I'm not the first to say it. He became the heart of the film and the heart of the team, because you learned that he wasn't okay with how he got where he was, but this was his arc of getting to where he knew that there was something he had to do with it, right? And so the way in which the first version was edited to make him seem so reluctant and moroseful, and none of that happened in this film. This was all like, hey, why are he tells Wonder Woman, why are you looking for me? Because he's off trying to figure himself out, right? And so once he joins the team and starts to use those things we were showed that he could do, man, I thought, geez, I know it'll never happen, but I want a Cyborg film. Like, I want to see origin story and all these cool. I mean, he's like MacGyver in an Iron Man suit. So
that's why I say I feel robbed when I look at it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when it comes to Cyborg and how little, or not how little, but how much his story was completely ejected into the sun with the original cut versus this, it all has to do with Joss Whedon. I mean, those of us who know what's been going on, the last several months, this is all of that is all Joss Whedon's fault.
Yeah.
Forget about the fact that he had to make a 2-hour movie out of what was theoretically a 4-hour movie. That was all possible in a 2-hour movie, and it still didn't happen because Joss Whedon turns out to be a real douchebag in real life.
Yep.
And thus the drama that has been going on in the whole thing with Ray Fisher and Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon, and everything's been brought to light about how, and all the other actors who were at first silent about it, but then when he started speaking about it, they're like, yep, that was all happening. What's his name? Jason Momoa was up there at a con, QA panel. I forget what con it was, but Ray Fisher had started saying some stuff, and Jason Momoa was right there. He's like, yep, all true, kind of thing. And all of what Ray Fisher's character got reduced to, this whiny little bitch in the original cut, was all because of Joss Whedon.
Yeah,
completely.
I wanted to say something. I think this portrayal of Cyborg in the Snyder Cut, it had something in it that I was kind of surprised by. They kind of made Cyborg more relatable to me and to everybody else, the audience, I think, because there was something inherently human, more human about his character arc than any of the other characters. Him dealing with the death of his family, not only his mom, but also his dad, trying to figure himself out. He didn't ask to even be here, so he's dealing with all these types of emotions, so many things going on all at one time that really humanizes his character arc in such a way that you really start gravitating towards Cyborg. He's like the heart and soul, and you're like, dude, I want to see this kid more. I want to know more about him, because you're going along for the ride. He's figuring things out as you're starting to figure things out about him. So there's an instant connection there that Zack Snyder did so wonderful, I think, in getting the audience to like Cyborg on a whole different level.
But it's in contrast to every other character. I think Cyborg was done so well that it makes the other characters look bad.
It's kind of a rush job.
All right.
Aquaman looks like a douche bag in this movie. Douche
he does.
bag. Super douche. What? First of all, your shirt's already soaked when you save the guy. So why is it that when you're going back to the water, every time we got to remove the shirt? Like, I'm all for shirtless Jason Momoa. I love shirtless Jason Momoa. But 3 scenes in it where you taking your shirt off every time you get in the water, bro.
Yeah.
Why the fuck do you have a shirt when you came to surface anyway?
My friend had an ongoing joke about that scene. He's like, forever, that's the way I look now when I drink a bottle of whiskey. I was like, bro, no way.
It had to be slow-mo. Why?
Yep.
No fucking reason. Like Sergio said, he found the slow-mo feature and he shot him drinking that in slow-mo.
No.
There you go.
It makes no sense. It adds nothing to the story. It doesn't tell us what kind of a hero Aquaman is. It's just, it looks douchey.
There is so much to what's being said here, guys, because think about how much time we've spent talking about Ray Fisher.
Yep.
And how much we're not talking about, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot. I mean, and it's not
the big
that they
three,
it's not that they didn't do, exactly. I mean, it's not that they didn't do a great job. It's that part of it, I think, is the effect that we got sitting there as fans going, okay, this is like, it's almost like the great stuff that was added stands out too much, because then the rest of the cast feels unbalanced. So much so that one of the biggest points that creeped in my head throughout the film was this movie exposes Batman for all the things he can't do.
Yeah.
There's a point where I was like
run.
and the line that he gives to Ezra Miller as the Flash earlier in the film is so perfect when he goes, "What is your superpower?" I'm rich. Yeah, because you don't bring anything else but your gadgets, and everybody else is outshining you. I mean, there's a scene where
doesn't even bring his gadgets.
He brings all the gadgets.
When they get to the final battle, location, it's like, you guys go ahead. I'll be back here. I'm like, yeah, this just feels weird. It's
out of your wheelhouse. It's out of your depth.
Yeah.
But Batman would compensate for that with his gadgets. At one point, my son was like, "Is he fist fighting parademons?" I was like, "Yes, son. He's fist fighting parademons." Batman would not engage in a fist fight with parademons. He would have gadgets. Towards the end, the third act, he has explosives and he sticks on them. That was Batman, but that's all we get of gadgets. Are you kidding me? He would have came gadgeted to the fucking gills for that final battle.
Look at the gauntlets. The gauntlets.
He did have his plane that he used to break into the shield to take the shield down. He then brought out the Batmobile and shot the crap out of everything until it got crashed. So he did.
But when he jumps in the fight,
yeah, but like when he had nothing else, he already blew up the rest of his shit. You know, it's like, what else is he gonna do? And then what does he do after that? He gets the guns on the tower and starts using those.
He was basically
but Batman has Plan B, Plan C, Plan D.
Yeah,
this is
they're called
most
Aquaman,
overprepared. No.
But it was already 4 hours. It was already 4 hours.
It was already 4 hours.
What happened to his suit of armor? What happened to his? He
was kind of just there. He was like,
"Yeah,
I'll be here when y'all get back."
I'll throw something out there because I think it's sort of a moment or a very small theme in the movie or a little plot that we're supposed to understand, but I don't think everybody's kind of taking it away. Batman's character going into the structure, taking down, let's call it the shield, and then being swarmed by the parademons while in the Batmobile. Just tried to do it, but he failed miserably. He tried to sort of showcase a Batman sacrifice. Batman sacrificing himself in the fight for the greater good. Zack does it better, but just more subtle, to where he reminds the team, no matter what you see, just stick to the plan. And I think there's even lines before they even head to the site where he says, my job was to bring you guys together. I'm always sort of in that mindset of his only motivation is to bring together a group that might be able to avenge, or defend the Earth. And
because he knows he can't do it.
Because he knows he can't.
He's just the guy.
But which doesn't fit his character
not at all.
At fucking all. Batman is the lone wolf's lone wolf.
Before Justice League, though.
When it's an Earth-based thing, not aliens coming out of the sky. Because even in the comics, Batman doesn't go, "Yo, come at my bat," or whatever it is, right?
No,
he's not.
Man.
Because he knows what he can deal with and what he can't. He's not going to be like, "Yo, come at me, bro. I'm rich." In
the comics, even when he joins the Justice League, he is always the last line of defense in his mind, which is why in Doom, he has a plan to kill every member of the Justice League.
Batman is arrogant, dude. Batman is arrogant because he thinks that he is so much smarter than everybody else because he plays the long game. None of that was portrayed in this Batflick version of Batman. It just made him seem like a
Zack
punk.
proved you right, Juan. Zack proves you right all the way up until the epilogue. Because let's say we're a year or 2 years or 5 years into the future. Who's the last one of the Trinity that remains on the good side, at least? There's no Aquaman. There's no Diana. Superman has succumbed to the anti-life equation. Mm-hmm. And it's even understood by his arch nemesis, the Joker. He says to Bruce Wayne, Batman, in his face, how many Earths have you destroyed because you weren't willing to die? You're right. Batman is the last line of defense, and that's why everybody else is either died or is a shell of themselves, I think, around them.
We have a comment. I'm going to put it on screen, Ted. We have a viewer watching us, Adriel Andres Ramos, and he puts, you got to remember also this Batman is already 20 years, over 20 years of experience fighting in Gotham. And then the one comment that I love, he kind of old already.
Yep. Yeah. 100%, which is why he would have planned even more for his old body to fail him, for his plan to not go through. It seemed like an unprepared, I'm taking it on faith, Alfred. That's not Batman.
It just seemed like he never felt like he belonged.
He doesn't take things on faith. He is the most calculated person in the entire universe.
It just seemed like he was never worthy to join them. It always seemed like he was down on himself, like, I know I don't have any superpowers, but my job is just to bring you guys together. I'm just not worthy to be in y'all's presence. I even work for Alfred. I work for Alfred. Dude, get the fuck out of here with that, man.
That's great respect towards
him,
Alfred.
that's him
No, bro,
He
come
says shit
on.
like that. Yeah.
Batman can kill every one of those motherfuckers, and that's what he should have been walking like.
Yep.
It's like, I assembled this team because I need you, but I could kill all you motherfuckers if I had to.
No, I love that you brought up Doom. I love that you brought up Doom earlier because it's one of my favorite animated movies. And one of the last lines of that movie is a conversation between Bruce and Clark. And Clark says, for all of those plans or contingencies. For all those contingency plans you had for us, I'm surprised you didn't make one for yourself. And then Batman looks at him, he goes, I did. It's called the Justice League. And that's how much respect he has for all of them. And I think that's what fits to this character. His plan is to bring together these heroes, separated. The Earth is doomed, no shot in hell, any of that stuff. But I think together they actually have a pretty decent shot. And we have a lot to talk about. I hope we get through more things. I like that the bringing back of Superman is done better. And I want to kind of go around the room and see if it's across the board. The other one, the movie that shall not be named, it seemed like kind of throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, should we do it? Hey, that's an idea. Let's try it out. And this one, there's actually some logical reasoning behind it. And they all stand around talking about the mother boxes. And Bruce even states, we know it's a good idea because the mother boxes didn't call out until Clark had died. So I love that this movie actually gives us a solid reason. And it's not just like, hey, let's go dig up this dead body and see what happens. Like, I thought that was terrible.
And then they're arguing with each other in the theatrical cut. No, and they're like practically fighting with each other.
I hate that, by the way. Yeah.
That whole
trying to create the whole scene in the
Avengers.
Avengers. He tried to create the scene in the Avengers when Iron Man and Cap are going at it.
Yeah, he was trying to do the same thing where it's like, man, these people are so different and stuff, but I got to bring them together with a thing, and then they'll realize how cool they are together. I could do that here too. No, because none of these people knew who each other were. You didn't have that in the Avengers because they did know each other for however long.
Don't forget the awful Pet Cemetery reference. Don't forget the awful Pet Cemetery reference that really didn't even belong in there. It's Pet Cemetery.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
You think she's into younger guys?
Oh, bro.
he's like, hey, do I get to do a scene where I run into her chest accidentally, like in the theatrical? Both of them didn't want to. Yeah. Thank goodness that was not in there
uncomfortable and shit. Almost as uncomfortable as the hair rub.
Yeah.
But at least in that case, what's her face? Gal Gadot and Ezra Miller both didn't want to do it, but Ezra Miller didn't. I mean, to the point where Joss got a body double for Gal Gadot to do that scene, and Ezra couldn't talk his way out of it because at the time he was Ezra Miller. He was nobody. He didn't have the juice, to be able to say "fuck you," I'm not going to do that or whatever it is. So to do it. But thankfully that was out of there. But no, the movie was the resurrection of Superman was made all the more sense. Just like a lot of the story of the movie made all the more sense from the first 90 seconds of this movie.
No.
Why? Because we see why the hell the mother boxes are waking up now, as opposed to why that they've been sitting here forever. Why didn't they call out to Steppenwolf so he could be like mother the whole damn time? No. They called why? Because they detected that the man was dead. His shockwave scream going around the world, which was super cool. As soon as it passed by, they all
that was not super cool. You want to tell me a guy who could peel the flesh off of you with a sneeze if he does it accidentally and Batman's just gonna stand there like, oh, sound waves, cool. That's awesome. It's not gonna rip him apart. He's not gonna at least cover his ears. Like
maybe it's
able to make it all around the world, and he's just like, oh, cool, sound waves.
Yeah. What was he gonna do? Play the long con with it or something?
I think you're putting too much weight on what that scene was for. I think because for me the that scene, the only fault in that scene, that first 90 seconds, is that it was about 30 seconds too long. It just, okay, we got it.
And
right?
another slow-mo scene.
And it was,
slow-mo.
and I don't say that to make a joke. I'm just like, this is it's such a great detail, because again, to Nick's point, it explains the mother box is waking. But it's seriously at a point where it's just like, okay, if this is going to be the pace of everything, I'm already knowing it's going to go a little too long or a little too slow. But to your earlier point, Ted, the resurrection scene had so much more weight because of what we learned from the first part, to Nick's point, of the film itself, and how that box was going to work to do what it needed to do. And you also had that element of, they know what this box is for, and it's really not intended for this, right?
Yeah.
And so their discussions were far more, it wasn't bickering as much as it was figuring out, like, is this the way to go, and how do we go about doing it? I loved the sequence where the Flash is, he's gaining his speed. And I love the fact that we got that whole, I can't hold this very long. And that introduced a cool time travel sequence that, again, I'm a sucker for a great action film, and these are elements that just made that whole experience that much better. There were some still things that occurred sort of within the middle of all that scene, the flashback or sort of premonition, but it just, for me, it made more sense that the solution to how to bring him back, so that when it worked, and then we got a long sequence of what we had from the original Justice League version, when he, first is resurrected and then he has his, hissy fit. It just, I don't know, I felt like it had more weight because it was treated much more like a team discussion versus this bickering. And that's the only time that I was okay with the whole Batman taking things on faith business. He said that's too many times, and I was like, but then he said it then, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense, because you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. This is all a plan. Exactly. So,
and I like that they thought of the consequence. They were like,
yes,
as soon as we try this, they're going to know where this box is.
Exactly.
So if it doesn't work,
connected,
we're fucked.
Yeah.
It was one of the only times that the film had some continuity and made sense.
That's a lot of continuity. We're talking about continuity a lot.
One of the things that I wanted to point out here that nobody mentioned.
It's great writing. I'm
glad nobody mentioned this. One little tidbit about it is it made that picture of Clark Kent's father that much more impactful. Yeah, because and then you see what happens with the Flash as he missed his timing, and then we see him, being able to rewind time just enough so he can go ahead and touch the mother box as it's touching the water, or that whatever solution
hint of how powerful
he is.
The Flash is. That's our first hint and tease. I did like that part of it. I really like that.
And the other thing that I thought was really well done too is when Cyborg is going ahead and telling him, talking to the AI that's in the ship, and the ship's like, are you sure you want to do this? And then he has that premonition. It's like, are you sure you want to do this? And they're like, yes, let's do this.
No.
I was like,
and then he's like, no. And then he's like, go.
No.
and it's cool because of the fact that if the in the theatrical cut, the picture was just, when you saw the picture fall into the thing, you're like, okay, well, that's just cheese for no reason. It's stupid. It's like, okay, the picture was there, but why are you focusing on that? Now it matters, because if the picture wasn't there falling into the water and then coming back out, and it was just the mother box corner going into the water and then coming back out, you wouldn't figure, time travel, because it's alien thing. Okay, it's just doing whatever it wants. But with the context of the picture coming back out, you're like, he's rewinding time. That's what that is.
Yeah.
In that split example of paying attention to the small things, but not the big things.
Yeah.
There you go.
He does that a lot in this movie. Like certain things, you're like, the attention to detail is masterful. And then you zoom out, and it just doesn't make sense. It stops making sense when you zoom out. It falls apart. You start seeing the glue and the tape.
He pulled back the curtain. He's pulled back the curtain. He's seeing that little man Oz behind the curtain.
Exactly. You're seeing the guy with the puppets. Fucking. So the more you zoom out, the harder it is to like.
You mentioned continuity earlier, and real quick, I'll call out another comment by Adriel Ramos. He says Martian Manhunter was cool. to see, but they should have had it more throughout the film. Hey, not denying that at all. And he also mentions Flashpoint. So another sort of a great example of the continuity in this film. Barry, who's a very new to this whole Flash deal, he doesn't even have the moniker at this point, right? From what we understand, he knows that time has some weird aspects of it when he hits light speed, but he doesn't fully understand it yet. So the ship moment that we're all talking about is fantastic, so well done. I'm not even sure it was mentioned that he has to touch the box as it hits the water. I'm remembering that because that was in the 2017 version. And the only reason why they did that, they said that line, was because Joss needed to take the time travel stuff out. And because he takes the time travel stuff out at this point, he has to take the time travel stuff out at the ending. Or it's probably the other way around. He probably takes out the ending first and then realizes, well, now I have to change this scene because this also has some time travel stuff in it. I got to take this part out. So it's great. It's a great detail. I'm glad it's in here, and it helps because it gives us the notion that this is possible or this is something that could happen towards the end. The ending isn't just a surprise. I know I can do this. It's this should work. I can do this if I try it. What's the worst that could happen? The Earth is already destroyed.
We're already burned anyway.
It's out of necessity that he discovers that ability to rewind at that scale.
At that
scale.
And
you get it. And you get it. And you see how powerful finally the Flash is. He is essentially the most powerful member of the Justice League because he can rewrite reality if he wants to. And it's so cool to see as a comic book fan. I love that. Like, I fucking got the Flash t-shirt. I love his character. And I wanted to love this movie. And it's another example of them doing moments so well. And that
you love the ending. Is it not one of the best endings in the comic book movie?
I think if you have just the last hour of this movie, you're going to enjoy the shit out of yourself. But if you can do something else during the first 2 hours, you will enjoy it a lot more. Like if you just kind of have it on in the background, you're not. Trust me, you're not going to miss anything pertinent.
I love the Amazons. I love the Amazons. I gotta see the Amazons.
Juan, I want to ask Juan real quick. So Juan, how different do you think your review would be if you didn't have the Whedon version in your mind? If this was I'm curious, because you're making it. I see the points you're making, but how do you think you might have felt if this had been what we got?
I would have been upset. Okay. I still would have been upset because it feels like it's a rushed project. It feels like
for 4 hours,
and it's it's rushed because we have 2 origin stories that essentially get full arcs. Like Cyborg's arc is a fucking film. If you cut it out, you probably have 45 to 50 minutes of Cyborg, beautifully told arc. But that's a movie that should be on its own. So automatically, this movie is now only 3 hours. Is what you need to tell this Justice League story. If you remove that. Then you remove the other fluff, and you can get a 2.5-hour movie that still tells all the beautiful things that Snyder wanted to tell. I would have hated it because it would have felt rushed, and it would have felt like we were packing too. Kind of like Age of Ultron. I don't know if any of you guys saw Age of Ultron. They try to shoehorn every Marvel movie to come into Age of Ultron, and it didn't work as well as the Avengers. The second Avengers film feels like you're packing in Thor: Dark World. And this is going to happen. Foreshadowing for this movie. Yeah. Here's this storyline that you're going to need for later on. That's what the Justice League felt like, even the 4-hour cut.
I think I know what you're saying, Juan. It lacks polish,
I think it becomes more, like you're saying, like it feels rushed now. I think it becomes extremely more rushed if you take out the Ray Fisher stuff. You take that out, the movie doesn't make sense. It's built to be 4 hours, I'm saying they should have had it. We should have had solo movies to build up to what the Justice League would have, should have, could have meant to us. Yeah. And I can't help but feel robbed every time I see it. Not all Snyder's fault, by the way. No, the WB wanted a Justice League like immediately after Batman v Superman. They needed it in 2 years max. Yeah.
So not all Snyder's fault.
they were 10 movies behind on what they could have had.
Exactly. Not all Snyder's fault, but he could have achieved a lot of the same things in a shorter amount of time and a cleaner version.
Here's what I'll say about all that, because I'm okay with kind of how they did this. I'm okay with Cyborg's character being the heart and the emotion of this film throughout. Batman doesn't have anybody. Like, he's got Alfred, but you're not gonna kind of put Alfred in any sort of peril. So Batman's not gonna be your emotional heartstring puller. Diana's got nobody. Diana is nearly invincible, and she doesn't have any friends. We lost Trevor many, many years ago. Superman is dead for half the film, and so your Aquaman, he's kind of showing a little bit of that family inner struggle that he has with his origins and his family and everything. So that's it's done a little bit, but it's not enough for me to like really care too much. Barry, I would have liked another scene between him and the dad, because the first scene's great. Barry's motivations at the end of the movie is great, but I feel like one more scene that kind of cements the emotions between the father and son, and that aspect, I think it would have helped. It wasn't necessary. It would have helped, but that's why I think it's okay for them to bloat really this film and have so much of Cyborg's arc in here and being the emotional aspect of this film, because nobody else can do it. Batman's got no emotions. He's got no family or friends. Diana's got no family or friends. It really has to be Cyborg. So if you want to take some of the bloatedness out of this film, it really can't be Cyborg, because I don't know where you write a film that somebody else can carry the emotional load.
Well, that's why I say everybody needs to watch this at least once if they're a comic book fan.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a good movie in the traditional sense of movie, a clean, finished product. But this is Snyder's vision. And if you're a fan of Snyder or a fan of comic books even, there are too many badass moments to not watch this film.
Yeah.
Because they do a lot of different things right. I personally don't believe it's cohesive. It's not a clean movie. There's a lot of unfinished shots. There's one shot that they're having between two characters that the camera's literally like panned into their face. And it seems like that's the only shot, the only take they had of that scene. So they had to use it. They had a lot of the scenes feel like, fuck, that's our only take. All right, cool. Fuck it. We'll go with that one. So that's my criticisms of the movie are more in a movie sense. It would have made a great miniseries. HBO Max should have broke this up into pieces, and we could have told
like a
better story.
miniseries.
We should have given them some money to do some reshoots and give us those flash scenes. Then you can digest it and chew on it and really feel these moments. But in a 4-hour movie, I think it was too much, and you had to cut things out. Like you said, you had to cut some of the flash out, so it doesn't feel as impactful as it could have. And then the Ray Fisher just outshines the other ones, making a Trinity seem dim. The Trinity, like they're the biggest characters in the DC universe, and they're like in the background.
Let's put Adriel's comment on screen real quick. And I think this is the one thing that we're kind of missing, I guess, as fans, and not only as fans, but people who kind of review films as well. Is this is an experience for the fan himself, you know? And that's what this 4-hour epic really is. It's fan service, and it's an experience. It's like something else that's none other right now. You know, we get stuff from the MCU and it's like 2.5 hours, boom, you're done, you know, you get out of there. This one is very methodical, and what it was supposed to be, the vision, we get that. It's an experience. While it isn't highly polished, like you said, there's scenes that are, you know, still need some work. Even the CGI in certain scenes, as you had stated, you know, they're not quite where they need to be. But overall, the aesthetic this is an experience. So going in there as a fan, you know that you're getting more of a polished film than what Zach had to work with, which is basically a lot of unfinished CGI stuff, you know. So it's
and
better.
No budget. They probably gave him no budget to finish this film.
Exactly.
It's
bare minimum.
It's like 70 mil.
70 mil.
Yeah.
Sergio was going to say something. Let's let
300
Sergio finish his point.
300 expense to WB or whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing, okay, so I hear what you're saying, but the thing is also is that you're looking at it, I feel like it's being looked at in the lens of a traditional movie that it's like, why isn't it 2 hours long? Because it can't be. And it was essentially made to be a streamed movie. Why wasn't it a miniseries? It is. It's broken up into six parts very distinctly. No studio is going to put a 4-hour movie out. They won't make the return on their investment, no matter how badass the movie is, right? It would have to run for months for it to get to be able to have enough throughput of people buying tickets for them to show enough showings for it to make its money back.
Endgame and The Return of the King both did that.
Yeah. Endgame was 3 hours exactly long.
It was like 3.5 hours, and Return of the King was up there as well.
Yeah, but they also
3 hours, 27 minutes or so.
But you also had the theaters basically closing out every other movie that they were showing just to show Endgame. Yeah. Period. Yeah. They weren't showing shit during that entire month. They were showing Endgame day and night, 24/7.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss, exactly, right?
And that's the thing, is that one of the biggest elements that we have to keep in mind is that, whatever budget they gave, Snyder over this probably has a lot to do with the history, but it's also the fact that this movie suffers from the fact that the DCEU, in large part, has failed so much that you're never going to get MCU money for a movie like this, even if it had been shot from the beginning, all the way through by Snyder. And so it suffers from the budget available based on the history of the films in this franchise. And, from an emotional standpoint, does it hit for me? Sure. But yeah, there are things that show up that just are incomplete, like you've been saying. But I think it's because if our expectation was that this was going to be something that was going to blow our minds at every level, it's never had the budget to do that from the outset, because the franchise has not done well.
Yeah, and it's all the fault of WB basically grasping at straws, as it were, to put something together. The people will go see it, right? If we go in, we'll make it dark. You will get the Suicide Squad. The kids like the guns, right?
No.
That kind of thing. And just that movie was, I don't know.
They like the Joker, don't they?
That movie was trash, and no one wants to see a director's cut of that, regardless of how much Jared Leto says that all his best scenes were cut out of the movie.
You would be surprised.
We might have another
there is not enough people that wanted to see the Snyder Cut that want to see the Iyer cut of Justice, or rather of Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually would, and it's not because I think there's a better cut. It's because I know that David Ayer is a very talented director. The dude made Fury. The dude wrote Training Day. He's End of Watch. These are all amazing, incredible movies, direction-wise, edit-wise, and Suicide Squad does not make a whole lot of sense. It takes multiple viewings, and still there's decisions in it that don't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so I know there's just a more sort of comprehensive edit that Ayer has, and he's already said as much, because he wasn't able to edit his movie. WB took that control away from him. Yeah. So the theatrical cut that we got
nor make a really R-rated movie the way he wanted. He wanted some graphic Joker content in there. Yeah. He wasn't allowed to do that.
I got a question for you, Juan.
Even more recently now, he's like, I'm indifferent to it. He's like, I wouldn't even. He's like, if they gave me the chance, he's like, I wouldn't really care.
But they're not going to shit on their James Gunn version. They have their James Gunn version coming, so they would never do Ayer's cut of the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, no.
They're not going to do any Snyderverse content because they poured a lot of money into Matt Reeves' Batman, and they have an entire Gotham PD series that ties into the Matt Reeves Batman. So the amount of money they're into their new version of storytelling, they're not going anything Snyder.
We have our good friend Ryan that has a question here.
Connecting. Oh, go for it.
Ryan says, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, over 4 hours, Juan. And look at what he put here. He put the theatrical cut he is around 4 hours, 11 minutes long.
It is not that long. It is not.
the
I know
extended-
That's the extended
That
edition.
is the
Yeah,
extended
The
one.
extended version is, but the extended version got a theatrical release and made a shitload of money, more than
Yeah.
Justice League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
I
original
remember that,
theatrical
actually.
release
Because it's
wasn't.
done right. It's
Yeah.
done right. You can do 4 hours and make an amazing film.
Yeah.
But this one just is not a cohesive. I think it should have been a miniseries because they queued it up as one.
Yeah.
They should have broke it up as one and let you digest it as a miniseries. And I think it
Yeah.
would have been a lot better. But if you take the Snyder Cut for it being a Snyder Cut, and like you said, don't view it in the lens of a traditional film, you'll enjoy it a lot more.
I think we
Keep
need to
your
talk about
expectations
something.
low. What's up?
We haven't talked about something, and I think it's time we get into this discussion. I want to
Uh-oh.
know, and we'll start off with you, Sergio. Why don't you let us know what you thought about the portrayal of Darkseid, and more importantly, what did you think of that battle scene between Darkseid and his forces of evil, the parademons, and everybody going against the forces of Earth and the gods?
Well, I mean, Darkseid never showed up. So, I mean, again, I go back to what I've been saying. The first version was absent of Darkseid completely.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
The very first time you see Desaad appear on screen, I was intrigued. I was like, okay, I like where this is going. We're going to get more of the story that, why Steppenwolf is doing what he's doing. When it gets to the final scene and we start to see Darkseid for the first time, on screen, it's like, to me, that was a letdown because it never manifested itself. And the only thing, listen, say what you will, this was literally my reaction to the whole Darkseid sequence that came at the end of the film or during the battle scene. I sat there and I was like, is that Judi Dench to his right? I was not even, because it didn't fulfill anything for me. And
Useless
so
scene.
I can't say that I was like, all right, well, we understand more about him because of the exposition in the movie, but when it came down to it for me, I was more interested in the background. And then I found out about who Granny Goodness was by my research.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right.
No. Spill the beans. Who?
Who what?
You
Who's
tell us
Granny
what
Goodness?
what do you know about Granny Goodness?
She is a lieutenant
This
of
is us testing you.
Darkseid's. Yeah, she's a lieutenant of
Oh.
Darkseid's, and is apparently, again, I'm not a comic book guy like some of y'all, but she's apparently one of the most vile villains out there. And now that I know that, I'm like, well, it better have been Judi Dench because she pulled it off. But no, it made me curious to know what was in the background because I knew Darkseid wasn't gonna get involved.
Yeah.
I think you could tell that too soon.
I thought you
Yeah, so
meant you knew who the actress was
Yeah.
that was
Oh,
playing
no.
Granny Goodness. I'm like, what? I need to know that because I still don't know who it is.
No, it wasn't
so
Judi
you-
Dench. So
You mean to tell me they beat Darkseid's ass so bad that he forgot what world it was?
Yeah.
Oh,
They
yes.
beat
Okay,
Yes.
They beat your
Yes.
ass so
He-
bad
he for-
that you
but-
straight up were like, I don't want to remember that place. I got my ass handed to me on that
Yeah.
one.
And he
Like,
left the mother
like,
boxes behind. And he left the mother boxes
And he
behind.
left the fucking
Okay,
motherfuckers.
So he leaves the mother boxes behind, right? Ares straight up on his own almost kills Darkseid. Just Ares by
Yeah.
himself. If he hadn't waited and then started swatting around at parademons and just taken the axe down and gone a couple more times,
Should have
Darkseid
gone for
would've
the
been
head.
that would have been it. And that was even supposed to be like before Darkseid was Darkseid. It was like when he
Before
was the
Darkseid.
original Uzas or whatever his original name was, right?
Oops.
But I-
Should have gone.
there you go.
Should have gone for the head, bro.
Yeah, should have gone for the head, right? Again, another big gray guy getting hit in the shoulder or whatever this kind of thing, or in the chest.
Yeah.
It's almost there. It's almost there. But
it's
but
stupid.
forgets the boxes. But didn't Darkseid see the anti-life equation in the ground when he first jumps off the ship and then boom, you see all the lava and stuff? Because it's the exact same stuff that what's his face that Steppenwolf saw in his little dream that he then tells Desaad, yo, I think the thing's here or whatever. In fact, I'm sure it's here. But Darkseid saw it in the flashback when they were fighting the gods and the Green Lanterns and everything. It was all over the place.
But was that
Yes.
definitive that symbol was in fact the anti-life equation, or was
Yeah.
it just?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's the exact same thing that Steppenwolf sees in his little dream, and then he tells Desaad, yo, the anti-life equation's here. You think I can come home now?
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. So it's
Yeah.
like not only was Darkseid stupid and forgot the boxes and forgot where Earth was, but he also forgot where he his whole prize was the whole time. So,
Yeah, like Juan said, he got his ass beat that
he
bad.
lost a little bit more blood than he thought he did.
Yeah, Darkseid looks like a fool in this film.
Which is a line that we actually get in the movie. So the movie tells you outright that once they hightailed it back to Apocalypse, Earth got lost on their way home. They didn't like leave a GPS or anything like that. They just hightailed it.
You can
and
fly
Diana
through
tells
multiple
us,
universes, but you can't put a GPS tracker on the boxes. Come fucking on, man.
Yeah.
The GPS was in the mother box that went to sleep. That's what happened.
Yeah. If anything anything was like what about the story, it was like that whole part, right? But the fact that we saw like Darkseid, granted goodness, Apocalypse right on the other side there, and look, that whole finale of them just absolutely murdering Steppenwolf, and it wasn't like, oh, the fear, taking him away. Like in the theatrical cut, the entire motivation of the bad guy is like, you think that this is all Steppenwolf's thing. He's got an unhealthy relationship with these boxes, and that's it, right? There's nothing outside of like, I want to burn everything, and that's it. But now it's like, oh, he pissed off Darkseid in some way and is exiled, and he's like basically working in the field trying to get back in his master's good graces, who's actually his nephew, Sergio. You don't know that. Darkseid is Steppenwolf's nephew, which is the dumbest, but whatever. Yeah. Because you can Google search. All right. But the thing is, too, is that like we got all that story, and then everybody has a part in killing Steppenwolf at the end, and Diana gets that sweet little chunk, cuts his head off, throws the body in. And we see everybody, but it didn't need to go anywhere because the whole point is that that's what the second movie was going to be, was Darkseid coming. He's like, we're going to take care of this the old ways or whatever, which means full-on invasion, just like he tried before, right? Only now it's Darkseid.
That worked out so well the first time.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and we saw that sequence already when Thanos puts the glove onto that post.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll do it myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
It seemed like that's what he was going for, but he didn't get it. To Sergio's point.
Oh my God, we're coming off as too focused on MCU in our lives.
It's hard not to compare it. It's hard not to compare it.
When you've seen the top of the mountain, dude, it's like everything else needs to measure up. Don't play.
Well, I fucked up and watched Falcon and Winter Soldier before watching the Snyder Cut.
Man.
So that was my mistake.
That's
so I got to see like polished CG and a cohesive story. So I go into the Snyder Cut and I'm like, well,
hey man, the House of the Mouse has some coin to throw at it, dude.
100%, man. They have all the they're blank checks for all of these shows. The budgets are insane. Just the flight scene of that
dude, not only that, but the cinematography, the lenses, the effects that they're using, it's just like it's movie quality, man.
Top tier, 100%. And that's what I think the Snyder Cut should have been. It should have been like a mini series to where we could all digest this and be like, holy shit, did y'all, and talk about it, and then watch the next one the next week. Holy shit, this is building up. This is a different movie altogether. I think we would have got more excitement of spreading
Let's talk a little bit about Steppenwolf and his portrayal. I want to hear what Ted has to say about this as well. Steppenwolf, he just looked like a punk in the first film, in the 2017 version. It just didn't really, he just looked horrible. His CGI looked horrible. His armor, awful.
Mama issues, yeah, exactly.
Awful, just horrible. In this one, he actually looked the part, more alien. And the one thing that I did like about the armor is that the armor almost had a mind of its own. If you watch the film, it moves. It's constantly in motion, like it's alive. And I really dug that. I'm like, okay, this is a better portrayal of Steppenwolf. I mean, what did you think, Ted?
It's, again, the armor, great ideas. It's functional. You see it used in a variety of ways, which is great. I would argue Steppenwolf probably has the second best arc in this movie. It doesn't end well for him, clearly, but he actually has solid motivations. He wants to be part of the royal family again. He's Prince Philip's weird uncle, or Elizabeth's weird uncle. I forget which one it was, but yeah, he wants to be part of the royal family again. So,
he's Prince Harry and Meghan Markle right now. So what Steppenwolf was.
Poor Super Shredder Steppenwolf. That's all I can think about. That armor.
Don't bring in Super Shredder into this. That's a whole other.
all I
Oh
see
my
looking
God.
at that armor. Tell me I'm lying.
That's a whole other podcast, man. Yeah, Super Shredder was awful, but yeah, I agree with you on that one. No, I would argue Steppenwolf has probably the second biggest arc in this movie, and I don't hate it because clearly some of the best comic movies have villains with solid arcs. Thanos being probably the biggest one that we would all agree has probably some great motivations that play out in those movies. Yeah, so I dig it. I dig it a lot.
I want to hear from Nick. Nick, tell us what did you think about Steppenwolf's portrayal? I mean, did you dig it? You didn't dig it?
Oh yeah. Oh no, I liked it a lot. I mean, he was a whiny punk. I had in the theatrical cut, like mother, whatever. I keep on saying it because it's just so funnily stupid. It's not even, Plus
It's
the CGI
Martha of that movie.
It's the Martha of that movie. Yeah. Martha, or whatever. But no, he was loved the upgrade in the CGI budget on him. Period. What's called. But the fact that we actually got a reason as to what the hell he's doing. Yeah, he's not the one who's causing all of this. He's going on, Apocalypse's, orders. He's off here, running across the universe, burning planets for Darkseid and stuff like that. But we now know why he was there in the first place, because the mother boxes called him. Why? Because Superman screamed and died, right? And the boxes knew that. But also, why is he doing all this? Because he's trying to get back in Darkseid's good graces again, because he pissed him off. Somehow he failed him. We don't know. Do we really need to know? No,
Well, it's an
I don't think
assassination
so.
coup. It says in the movie, it was an assassination coup. You turned your back on him.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I got the, So they vaguely see. There's a lot of movie that's forgettable. I know.
Yeah. It's okay.
Continue.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
It's still, you still get whether you remember that part or not. It's still like, okay, well, he pissed him off for some reason, so we've got a motivation for him to want to get back in Darkseid's good graces, all right? And then it's like, not only is he like starting to succeed, but you see the hope in his character of getting back, because it's not like he's just like, oh, I want to do this thing because I'm bad and I'm supposed to be bad. It's like, I want to do this thing because I want to go back home, and I've actually, like, my hope for doing it is increasing because look, I'm winning. I'm finding all the boxes, and also I found the other thing that Darkseid will really wants. So because Desaad what first tells him you still owe him 100,000 more worlds. He's
50,000.
50,000 more worlds.
50,000, yeah.
But let me show you the thing that I found. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that was
I got this SD card, yo.
Yeah, exactly. It's got the next 5 movies on it.
It's got a home video on here, bro. You got to see it.
Right. But no, I liked Steppenwolf's recreation as an actual character in this movie that actually had a motivation that made sense and an arc that made sense, even though he ended up with no head. It doesn't matter. He still had a motivation that resolved in a way that was satisfying, because now he had a reason for doing half the shit that he did in this movie.
Thanos also had no head, but that was a great movie.
He did. Sergio.
Chris Hemsworth lopped it off.
Sergio, give us your thoughts. I mean, what did you think about this portrayal of Steppenwolf?
I found it to be, a lot of what's already been said, is I agree with the story for me, because of how it was freshened up, how it was, there was given more foundation to work off of. I enjoyed it a lot more. I found the way in which not only he was rendered in the first film was annoying. It was almost as bad as Ares in the first Wonder Woman. I was like, there was nothing menacing about it. This felt menacing. This felt, I recalled. It was funny what you said earlier, Juan, about what it reminded you of his armor, because for me it reminded me of the I can't think of the name of the character, but in the first Thor, the metal character that comes at the end,
the Destroyer.
Thank you, the
Destroyer.
Yeah, that's what it made me think of, and then I immediately, was very fond of the way in which he was rendered in this particular movie. He looked way more menacing. It was when you can add menace, when you can add motivation to menace, I'm in, because now I get where you're going and why. And so the portrayal is actually, golly, I know the actor, Kieran Hines.
Yes.
And when you know that, and you're watching this particular, film and portrayal, you're like, okay, see this now. I feel something because I know the work that Kieran Hines has done, and of course, you don't see him because he's rendered digitally, but it just was it was a much deeper portrayal that was pulled from the footage from the previous film. It was just edited and produced that much better and given better context. And so
Amen.
I was annoyed last time by Steppenwolf. This time I'm like, all right, I'm with it.
Yeah.
To the point where I actually felt bad for the guy when he lost his head at the end. I was like, okay, well, that's what's supposed to happen.
But he gave the puppy dog eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The blue eyes fading out.
I literally was like, oh, dude, like I knew this was going to happen, but man, I felt something this time.
Let me ask you a
there you
question though, Sergio. And this portrayal of Steppenwolf, it just seemed like he was just a little punk though, in a way, because he was always playing catch up with Darkseid. Oh, everything's for Darkseid. Please let me come home. Darkseid made him really look like a little punk. And the thing is, when you see Steppenwolf on screen and you see him battling, the Amazonians, and you see him going toe to toe with the Justice League, he's now more of an imposing figure. But as much of an imposing figure he is, he's just small potatoes compared to Darkseid.
In his well, that's the thing, is when you're in a position, and maybe most of us have been in this place where we've had to redeem ourselves with someone, not to the level of having to destroy 150,000 worlds, but we know what it feels like to try to get back into somebody's good graces, right?
Yeah,
right.
Think about him talking to Desaad versus how he addresses Darkseid.
Yeah,
he's gonna give that reference to Darkseid because that's who he's trying to please. So I get what you're saying, but at the same time, he's playing both sides. Because I think he's way more in Desaad's face about how things are going, because he probably already knows that Desaad is talking shit about him when he's not around, right? So that for me, I get what you're saying, but for me, I was like, this is a more complex character. He knows who to be in front of whom, and when he's on his own, it doesn't matter who's watching because he's a badass.
Yeah,
right.
Like that. He played literally 3 different versions of himself in this film, and that was not present at all in the first film.
Yes.
And we knew that Desaad was talking shit about him behind his back, because at the end of the movie, Darkseid turns to him and he's like, "You told me he was gonna fail." He's like, "I did."
I told you that motherfucker was gonna fail.
I thought to myself, Desaad is a dick. Like, I mean, Steppenwolf just spent the entire film doing what he thought was right.
Yeah.
And Desaad gets the last word. Fuck that guy. Like, I was pissed.
I'm with Sergio. Fuck that guy.
I gotta ask something of Juan though. Juan, I saved the good question for you. And this is the one that I wanted to really ask you about, because you dive deep into all these discussions. And this is going to be that final battle scene between Steppenwolf and Superman. Superman enters the fray. Steppenwolf's a badass with that axe. And then just like that, Superman just holds it, breathes that, frost air on it, that frost breath that he has, and just breaks it like nothing. And then, Steppenwolf from that point, he's like, oh shit, I think I'm in trouble now.
Fear.
Superman has always been my favorite. He's my first superhero I ever came in contact with. He is forever my favorite superhero. He is the original. And what happened when he fought Steppenwolf is exactly what's supposed to happen when you fight Superman. Nobody's on his fucking level, especially not a minion.
Yeah,
you need somebody the likes of Darkseid, the likes of Doomsday, which they butchered, to fight a Superman. So I think it also points out, again, every time I watch something Snyder, it points out, as good as these moments are, because he handled Steppenwolf the way Superman would have handled him. Freeze breath, break the axe, beat your ass, easy peasy. I'm barely breaking a sweat in destroying you. Yet, in Batman v Superman, Doomsday just fucking, and not even a fully realized Doomsday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
What didn't he look like one of the you played Resident Evil 4, right? The giant trolls with the things coming out of the back. Doesn't he look exactly like that?
Exactly. He looked like part that, part Ninja Turtle. Ninja Turtle movies?
Yeah.
He looked like a fucking Ninja Turtle.
And the thing was that halfway through that Doomsday fight, he starts sprouting the bones, but not quite. It's like, if you were gonna do that, why didn't you just make him look like he did in the comics?
Exactly.
It was a hot mess, dude. It was a hot mess.
So that's why I think the Steppenwolf scene was good, but again, in the good that Snyder does, I can't help but see the glaring bad and inconsistency with the vision from Man of Steel to here, with the variability in Superman's powers.
Yeah.
Like, he should have been this badass from the get. I forgave him killing Zod because of the way Snyder described it. He no longer kills after this point because he is now the murderer of his own race. Like, he committed genocide of his race by snapping Zod's neck.
There you go.
He is responsible for the death of his entire race. So after that, he will never kill again. And I love that Snyder did that, so I forgave it. And then moving forward, he's a cynic in Batman v Superman. Nobody stays good in this world.
Yeah.
That's not my Superman. That's not my Superman. He comes back from the dead. I get he was trying to show the internal conflict of who am I? What do I want to be? Do I want to be what my father on Earth wanted? Or do I want to be what my father on Krypton wanted? I get the internal conflict, and then the shiny black suit looks cool as fuck. I'm never going to complain about it. But he didn't do a good enough job of explaining why he put that on and what it symbolizes. I think it took a back burner because we had to tell Cyborg's complete story.
Yeah.
So
Ted has some thoughts on that.
It would have been 4 hours and 30 minutes if we would have actually had to explain like why the black suit mattered.
Exactly. To my point, this is too much fucking things in the movie. There were too much.
Yeah,
There's too much shit in this movie.
I don't mind the black suit. Kind of not getting explained. I think it's a lot of it's fan service. If there's any reasons behind it, especially the one that Zach was trying to tell us afterwards, you don't get it. But it's I think it's fun that they don't have to explain.
He's too highbrow for his own good. A lot of the times he's trying to out Snyder his fucking self, and it shows. And it shows in this movie. That's what really bothers me. It's like it's not so much a Justice League film. It's a watch Snyder do Snyder. yeah. And if you're a Snyder fan, great. Then you got what you wanted. But if you wanted an amazing Justice League movie, you're not gonna get it here.
Sergio, you had something to say, and then we'll probably start wrapping this up after that.
Well, no, I was just going to say that one of the things I'm realizing as I sit here listening to all of us, the one the one character in the movie that I was like that I literally thought was being a little bitch was Superman. I mean, from the point of the resurrection of his resurrection, his resurrection. I got that internal conflict business stuff. Okay, I get it. But again, it was just this, and seeing it play through again in this version, I was just like, okay, we needed more of him in the overall arc of things, because when he finally shows up at the end, it was almost like, haha, now you're good, now you're okay, and I'm like, well, you've just diminished all the work that all the other superheroes have done.
Yeah, because all they needed was you.
Yeah, in fact, that's where I felt like the killing of Steppenwolf by everybody taking a shot was sort of designed so that everybody gets some sort of shine. But at the end of the day, Superman comes in, and after I waited for them to bring him back, after he goes through his little, like I said, hissy fit, he just shows up and everything's fine, and I'm like, well, okay, it felt ripped off from a character that could have really been explored even more so in a movie of this type of this length. So yeah.
I agree.
But no, we got to put Martian Manhunter in there instead.
Hey,
we got to do that.
Harry Lennox.
There you go. Fantastic actor. We've talked this movie up, down, left, right, sideways, forward, every which way I think we possibly can.
Almost for as long as the first half of the film.
We're in Act 3. We're in Act 3 right now.
We're still in Act 2, buddy.
Are we? Oh no, yeah, we are.
Hour and 47 minutes. You're still not halfway through the Snyder Cut.
Almost
pretty close. I was gonna say, I think that we kind of agree on some things. We have some overlap on things that are great. I think that there's also things that we think could have been done a little bit better, and we sort of kind of fall and have some overlap there too. I think the difference might be is how much we lean on our things that are good and how much we lean on the things that are bad. Yeah. The things that are bad, if you think that those are weighted a little bit heavier, this film probably doesn't, live up to all its expectations. And on the flip side, I think when you have the things that are good that we've all talked about, we've all agreed on, the Ray Fisher stuff, the ending and all that, if you lean on those a little bit more, this movie sort of fits into what you expected it to be. So I think probably across all lines of all the fans out there, there's probably somewhere in between where this movie probably falls into that place. I think it's around an 8.5 around 8.5 on IMDb. It's on 96% on Rotten Tomatoes with fans, still around 75% with the critics, which is actually more than what I expected.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking sometimes there really isn't good or bad movies anymore. Like, let's probably get that all out of our head. Justice League 2017 was probably the last bad movie we're ever going to get. But now it's all about preference. Do you prefer this? Do you prefer that? Would you rather have more story arc? Would you rather have more action? And I think we can't agree on anything anymore. I have friends who think Infinity War is a bad movie. I have friends who think Endgame is a bad movie. I'm not going to call them out.
You need to.
Why are they your friends?
You need to
fire them.
Change your friend circle, bro.
Yeah, really.
Change your friend circle. That's like somebody saying DC animated movies aren't amazing.
Oh,
I don't keep you in my friend circle if you say something that's stupid.
That's immediate block on social media, bro.
Yeah, 100%. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life.
Yeah.
No way.
Go. There you go. So I think we're coming to a point now where in sort of this golden age of comic book films where like it's really no longer good or bad. Now it's just, is it
matter of preference?
What do you
matter of preference to you? What matters most to you? I want to go around lastly to end this on a high note, and then we'll probably say goodbyes on sort of what really stuck out to you the most. What was your favorite part of the movie? Maybe it was an actor, maybe it was a scene. We haven't really talked about the score either. I thought the score was done a lot better. So that'll be it for me. In most cases, I like
this
score.
There were some scenes like the audio wasn't finished, like it wasn't mixed. Watch the first 2 hours.
I was only not just looking at Juan's reaction. I was looking at Sergio's.
Yeah,
they both went boom.
I was gonna say that nothing in the 2017 version, audio-wise, on the themes or anything worked for me. I thought they felt out of place. They really changed the tone of a lot of scenes, and I think this one was a lot less of music and the score that was trying to outshine what was happening on screen, and was more being supportive of it and trying to just match the tonality. There wasn't that that conflict.
Cognitive dissonance. I mean, it wasn't like
better.
Yeah.
So we'll go around. Nick, what's like one thing that really worked for you? One thing that you really liked about this film?
Golly, I don't really know. Like, I like a lot of things in it. You know, I like the fleshing out of everything that wasn't fleshed out before, right? I like the fact that it took its time, its sweet time doing things, you know, because I wasn't going anywhere at home. It's a 4-hour movie. I could stop it whenever I want to, right? But I really liked how everything was fleshed out in a meaningful way. Cyborg got his bit, Barry got his bit. Yeah, I could have used a little bit more with the dad, but I still felt good with him because he was brave this time. He wasn't a weenie like he was in the first movie, like he was in the first one.
No pun intended, yeah.
He was like, in the first one, he's like, what do I do? And this time he's like, okay, I do this. And he's over here lightning bolting across the sky, catching the tower as it's falling apart. That's baller shit, you know? And then he's the whole reason they win at the end, because even though Superman comes in Deus Ex Machina his way into the fight, they still lost because the Earth still got blown up real good. The only reason they even won was because Barry did his thing, which I thought was super awesome. A lot of different moments in this movie are really good. And as far as the music, I love the music. And I really, really always like it when it pops up in like BVS and then in this movie. But I really like Man of Steel a whole bunch. To me, it's like one of like I think it's like my favorite Superman movie like ever. Even counting, I love Man of Steel a bunch. But the music and the little Man of Steel theme that plays, the little piano thing, I love that. It makes you want to. It makes you feel something whenever you hear it. It doesn't matter. It's like that's Superman, and that feels good, right? That's almost as good on that
film that had a heart.
Yeah, exactly. But what you call it? So it's just a lot of different pieces of this movie that they all to me worked. And that ending that leads off into something that we are never going to see, I thought was just like, that was chef's kiss right there. The whole interaction between Batman and Joker, because of basically Joker's got his number and is like, I'm going to help you out. Here's this card. You can tear it whenever you damn well want to. And stuff. Like I loved that whole everything about that interaction was so cool. Yeah. But yeah, there was just a lot of little things about this movie that I really, really liked that all amounted into a whole that felt good to almost be, like, to me, an excellent movie. An excellent 4-hour experiment that will never be allowed to happen again unless it is made for streaming. Pretty much, period. Because I'm willing to bet money as the last thing on this. I will bet, as the olds will say, I'll bet folding money that we are not going to see a Justice League movie again. Period. Yeah. We are not seeing one again for, like, I doubt we will ever at all after this, because they are now going to be too interested in making. Why are we going to spend $300 million on an experiment that has already failed once, and we got a do-over on the test now that isn't going to make us any money? It might get some people to subscribe to HBO Max. That's about it. When we can turn around and make Shazam 2 and, Aquaman 2 and maybe make $1 billion off of them, why are we going to try getting all these people together again to do something like this? And now we don't have a plan anymore, which is like another series that tried to make a trilogy that didn't have a plan, new Star Wars. So, yeah.
We all saw how that turned out, exactly.
And Favreau we trust.
Well said, man. Well said. Juan, what about you, sir? Think something that you really liked about the movie?
Yes, and before I say my last thing that I did like about the movie, I do want to say there is one thing I believe Whedon did better than Snyder. One scene that I think worked better in the Whedon cut than in this one, and that is A World Without Superman. When that song Everybody Knows is playing in the opening sequence of the Whedon version, and you see the hatred and vitriol of the world. You see that mother and daughter being frightened by the man tearing their storefront up. Whedon did a good job of painting in that short time a world without hope. It displayed that without Superman in this world, it's almost as if hope itself has left the earth and it's void. And I think Whedon did a much better job of that than Snyder did, of making the world feel, not just because Steppenwolf and Darkseid are coming, but because the world needed hope, a symbol. They say it a couple times in the movie, but they never display how the world is affected without a Superman. They never show you the cost and the weight. So I didn't like that, and I think Whedon did a better job of doing that. The only thing that Whedon did better than Snyder. But talking about this movie, it's gonna have to be the Batman scene. You send a boy Wonder to
a man's job.
Like, and when he tells him, he's like, and make no mistake, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I don't like that, because that's not Batman. His whole thing is, if I kill you, there's the same number of killers in the world. That's always been his thing. So rub me the wrong way, but their chemistry just put that all in the back of my brain. And Leto and Affleck is probably my favorite Batman, bar none. The voice modulation, the physicality, the action,
the fighting style.
Fighting style, he nails all of it. The lack of gadgets kind of suck, and they made him more of a detective in this film. You actually see how he found Aquaman and how he got a hold of Barry, and his thought process in it is a little more calculated than before, where he was just like, I got some security footage and some logos.
It was stolen footage from last year's San Diego Comic-Con. That's what it was. So
exactly. No, Batman was better. He was fleshed out. So was Ray Fisher and everyone else. But Batman, was my favorite part of the film. I loved it because he fits the tone of a Snyder movie. Snyder should have done a Batman film after doing a pretty good Man of Steel. He should have went right in and told us a Batman story, because I think that's the story he could have told best, and then give us Batman v Superman when they're at odds with each other, established in that Batman solo film. But yeah, in this movie, my last word, Batman. If you're a fan of him, watch this movie, man, because you're gonna like it at least once. Watch it through, because Lord knows you don't want to do it twice.
I dig the idea of Batman film before BVS, because for those fans who weren't too fond of Batman and BVS, it would have softened that blow a little bit to see the contrast between what he was beforehand and what he was after the fall of downtown Metropolis. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Sergio, how about you, sir? Something that really worked for you in this film?
It's funny because I tend to be more forgiving than most when it comes to movie watching. Talk to folks that are on my show, and they'll tell you that I give grace to movies. This particular film, so much more of it worked for me than didn't. The things that didn't work for me were so glaring that it was hard to kind of reconcile overall. But as someone who is always about people's passion projects, when I remember and remind myself that Snyder needed to do this, because think about it, guys, it was in his head. Like, we've been there where we have to make something happen, because if we don't get it out of our head and consciousness out to the world, then who wants that regret, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's really what I take away from this movie as the biggest thing I like about it, is that Snyder came back from a tragedy and not only completed the vision he had begun, but then he dedicates it to his daughter. Mm-hmm. The film itself works for me. I love so much about it, but it's the outer story, the human story of Snyder making this come to pass, and feeling like, though I don't know the man, there's a part of him probably that sleeps better at night because he was able to close this chapter. And so that, to me, is one of the biggest stories around this film, and it's why I enjoyed it as much as I did, and why I'll revisit it, because there's humanity to it from the man who gave it to us. So that's sort of my final thought.
So the reason you like the film has nothing to do with the film. No, I don't mean to make too much of a joke, but I'm hearing that from a lot of people who liked it. It's like, it's great to see Snyder get his vision. It's like, that doesn't, you're not reviewing the movie at that point. You're reviewing the circumstances around it. I love Ray Fisher.
But if you want to know my review,
happened,
I will be watching out for my podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
But Sergio, because of what you said a second ago, because it's like, okay, well, he dedicates it to his daughter, right? Because of all the circumstances and everything like that. But we also know why he has such a big love for that song, Hallelujah. Because of the fact that that's his daughter's favorite song. That's why he plays it at the end or whatever it is, and that's why he's always used in all the trailers for most of his movies except 300, which that would make so much sense, is because it's his daughter's favorite song.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is super cool,
Beautifully said, Sergio. Beautifully said, man. Joe, you and I have already talked nearly 5 hours about this movie on a podcast in a podcast format. But let's hear kind of your biggest takeaway, one of the best things you liked about it.
Well, one of the best things I liked about it is that in this film, you could really feel Zack Snyder's passion come through for his vision completed. This was a passion project for him. And you felt that shit when you watched this movie. It was an experience. And this is something that really brought him back, like a redemption story, kind of. He never watched the original Justice League because he knew it was an abomination. All the things that he went through, coming back, being able to finish the vision that you started. To me, that's a passion project. And when you watch this film, it's such an experience because you feel that shit, and I loved it for that. And I think because of that, it has its issues. I'm not going to lie, like Juan had pointed out, even Sergio, there's some issues there too. And like Ted and even Nick have all pointed out, it has its problems here and there. But overall, when you watch this film, you come away with the sense of it was a good film. I liked it. It was great for what it was. We're probably never going to see anything like this on this scale again. Right. It's not going to happen because, it's a once in a lifetime experience, and for that alone, I was grateful that I was able to experience this and watch this film. One of the things that I thought they didn't get enough fan service was that arc with Lois Lane and Superman, and that whole thing that was going on there. It was very intriguing because you get hints that maybe she's with child, maybe she's not with child. You see the pregnancy test. You wonder why she's in such sorrow. Not only that she lose the love of her life, but there might be an underlying tone to it. Maybe she's in such deep sorrow because she's with child. And the other thing is, you get a sense of how grand a scope this is actually going to be with this arc with Lois, with Superman and Darkseid, because I don't think we really understood what was going to really happen. You know, it was just kind of, oh, it's kind of you understand without us explaining. But one of the scenes that I thought was so impactful that nobody really mentioned was that one scene where they have Superman and it looks like he's on the floor of the Batcave and he's holding Lois and she's just
Yeah.
burnt beyond recognition. And then
Good
you just
Omega
see
beam.
Darkseid's arm, his hand, you know, get placed on Superman's shoulder. And that's when he knew he had broken him. You know, but the thing is she's with child. That scene has a more impactful meaning because who isn't going to be pushed beyond your limits? Not only are you losing your wife, but your unborn child. No wonder he went the way he went, you know? So to me, I was like, damn, that's deep. That's dark. And that is something that maybe fans would have liked to have seen come to light at some point in time, you know? So it's a missed opportunity.
I think it's
Like
another
in a
example
video
of
game.
Snyder failing to convey what he in his mind was thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They didn't convey it very well on film.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, it was a great experience. I was glad I was able to be able to see it, you know, come to light.
A great experience, a monumental occasion, an event, a worldwide event for fans everywhere. Whether you anticipated it or not, you can't deny its popularity and the overall feeling that fans got around the world leading up to this film and this release. Gentlemen, I think we've already talked this film to death, and it's unfortunate that we might not get another one. It's unfortunate that we might not get a follow-up to this one, but there'll always be that small share of hope. And I'll be like Bruce Wayne and just say, faith, Alfred, faith.
Faith in Matt Reeves. We finally get a detective Batman. That's what I can't wait for, man.
There
and a
you go.
Riddler. Fucking Riddler. Oh, that's going to be so good.
Can't
wait.
A Matt Reeves trilogy. He's already got a trilogy under his belt. He's gonna go ahead and do that. Yeah.
Let's let the first one make some money first, and before WB pulls a Google.
It hasn't hit the streets yet, Ted.
We're out of the movie business. See you guys.
There you go. This has been a great time with you, gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks to everybody who was commenting, all the followers, and we're gonna go around, say our goodbyes here. Once again, you can watch the Geekcast each and every week. Usually on Monday nights, we're going to be starting our Falcon and the Winter Soldier discussion series. I need to watch the first episode. I've been on this Justice League high since Thursday. I haven't even had a chance to watch a new series yet. So if you want to catch our discussion on Falcon and the Soldier, join us each and every week, Monday nights, and can't wait to watch it. Can't wait to talk about it. For the Geekcast, my name is Teddy. Also from the show is the man behind the magic, one and only Joe Garcia.
Hey, great discussion. Love talking, Justice League with you guys. We got to revisit this again, Ted. We got to bring them back maybe to discuss Kong versus Godzilla. I know everybody's going to have their own opinions. So that's going to be a good one.
Something.
But thank you, gentlemen.
Sergio, I got to talk to you about that, actually. I'm going to message you about that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm planning something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to all you gentlemen joining us. It was a great time. I enjoyed myself, and I know Ted did as well.
Definitely. Our reoccurring guest, the one and only Nick Kramer, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for letting me hang out again, guys. I appreciate it so much.
I'm surprised Nick didn't say, you love me. You really love me.
I really like talking about the movies and all that kind of stuff with people and everything like that. So I really dig y'all having me around to do it every once in a while and stuff. So thanks a lot.
There you go. We'll have you back soon, man. I promise.
Cool.
He is the host of Con Culture. It is Juan Gonzalez.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. I love having these discussions. We were all respectful of each other's opinions and preferences. That's the way you want to be. I'm happy for everybody who loved this film. I'm happy that you're happy. I want a big DC and a big Marvel universe to be succeeding both. You can never have too many comic book movies for a comic book fan. Like, I want to see it succeed. So I do want to thank you guys so much. If you want to see more of my face and the amazing cast we have on Culture Podcast, Wednesdays is when we generally podcast. You can find us at conculturepodcast.com, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. We're everywhere. We're like a germ that just spreads. We're like the podcast version of COVID, but in a positive way. But no, I'm glad everybody who loved it. I hope we have so much more successful movies coming in the future. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Appreciate you, man. We won't wait too long to bring you back, I swear. And then last but definitely not least, from the Real to Real Talk podcast, it's Sergio Beretta.
Yeah, no, thanks, guys. I really enjoyed it. This. I can now say I was part of a crossover event, and so
yeah.
Anytime I get a chance to talk movies with people who are passionate about movies, it's fantastic. So with that, just want to remind folks you can find Real to Real Talk, the Real to Real Talk podcast on YouTube. We're going to soon be going live, like you guys are doing. We're getting closer and closer to having live broadcasts, but you can catch our episodes most often by Friday evenings. We post, and all the social media is out there. So just look up Real, REEL to Real Talk, and you'll find us. So thank you guys for an opportunity to represent tonight.
Anytime, sir. We'll have you back again, I'm sure. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night.